Hello, hello. My name is Dominique. I am with Southern Oregon Coalition for Racial Equity, and I am still getting set up. One moment. Hi, hi. Okay. I'm going to be inviting Stabbin' Wagon MFR in just a moment. Hey!
Ah,
This is
we did
great.
it.
Yay, yay. Okay, so we got 5 minutes until the real show begins. So
Okay,
I'm
cool. Well,
happy.
I just made Pepper Shakers our moderator, whatever that means. So
We'll see how this goes.
I'm trying to find a filter that makes me. I'm like, is there one that's slimming?
I
Is
mean,
there one
I
that
feel
takes
that.
5 years off? Is there one that like takes out the double chin? I'm good with that.
I hear that. Oh my God. You want to know what I hate when Facebook shows
Oh,
you
that's
memories
terrible.
from 5 years ago or something like that, and you're like,
Yeah.
you didn't need to remind me of that ex-boyfriend that I tried to forget. You didn't need to do that. You just woke up and chose violence. I see you, Facebook. Okay.
Hey yo, I see our moderator.
Woo
Good evening,
woo.
comrade.
All
This is so
right.
cool.
Yeah, it
I will
is.
be so next month I'm going to turn 44, and the TikTok and the tech stuff is not my forte. So as my son says, every time I learn something new with technology, he's like gold star mom, gold star.
Yes.
So I feel like I earned a gold star with this.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm 26 and I barely understand TikTok. I just make it look easy, you know?
I just asked Torin and the Pepper Shakers or somebody that knows it better.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I have my friend well, his handle on TikTok is Sasquatchon. I just know him as Sasquatch or Zachary.
Good. Now I have another person I can ask questions.
Yeah, his whole thing is mostly just things about Norse paganism and, of course, anti-racism because he has had to deal with the caucasity by people of the Christian faith as well, spouting incorrect information about Norse paganism. So that's his whole thing. So, yep.
Nice.
All right. Well, I am absolutely excited to get started, and hopefully we get the word out. That's what I'm trying to do,
Yeah.
man.
I was excited when you sent me the kind of the loose topics, and I started googling and I was like, "Oh yeah, and this point and that point." I had a lot of fun, so I'm glad you got me out of my comfort zone and I'm doing this with you.
Well, I am glad that I got to do this with you as well. I mean, you know what? activism work is just all around uncomfortable. This heat is uncomfortable. It's disrespectful. This heat is homophobic.
So if you, it's fucking rude. The heat is rude. It's rude.
Like we don't need this negative energy, man. So, um, yeah, I just, I will never forget being called a terrorist by our lovely, um, conservatives in the Rogue Valley. That will never get old.
What? You don't want the homeless to starve?
If I don't know who's joined in, all two people that are joined in. We live in Southern Oregon, and it is don't be deceived if you're not from here. All of Oregon is not like Portland, and I know we decriminalized some drugs, which is amazing, so amazing. But anywhere outside of the Portland area is very different. And I mean, Portland has its own set of problems, but down here in Southern Oregon, it is conservative. It is stuck in old ideologies and old ways, and it's not this liberal mecca that everybody thinks it is.
Yeah, it's like uh conservative midtown to yee real fast. I just lifted truck, Chris
Flag
Kyle,
flying, yeah.
Just we
Trump
don't need it.
2024
Oh, sweet Jesus. Yeah.
already out. Already out.
It's bad. It's bad. But just to get us started, once again, I am Dominique with Southern Oregon Coalition for Racial Equity. My position with So Equity is I am the research director, and So Equity identifies as a fiscally sponsored organization. However, we are trying to get that 501c3 status, just manifest that energy. And did you want to say something, Stabbing Wagon?
Yeah, so I am not fiscally sponsored. I am the Stab and Wagon Harm Reduction Unit. So I do like totally mutual aid project geared towards harm reduction services. So like I do syringe exchange and overdose prevention, and I do a lot of outreach with our unhoused community here in Southern Oregon. Lost Gnome says, I live in rural California, so it's pretty similar around here. Yes. You feel me.
Yeah.
You feel us.
Yeah. Oh boy. All right. So the topics that we're going to go over this evening, we're going to talk about recent events in the Rogue Valley. We're going to talk about history in hindsight. And then finally, we are going to discuss fallacies about homelessness, aka the weird comments that we've gotten from conservatives about homeless people. So, to set us off, Stab and Wagon, can you tell us a little bit about Medford police taking away the hydration station not too long ago?
Okay, so there's a park in Medford. It's called Hawthorne Park. And there is a daily feed, a lunch that happens every single day. It's been happening every single day thanks to So Equity willing to coordinate volunteers and giving us supplemental budget for snacks and water and things. And I don't know if anyone else is on the west coast of the Pacific Northwest, including Canada, but we had a heat dome, like a record high heat wave here. And our summers here are very hot anyways. They're not fun. They're miserable. We have terrible fire season. And so we set up, temperatures were getting well over 100, 115, 117. So we set up a 24-hour hydration station for anyone walking by, whether it be their animals, um, unhoused, anyone really that was just in the area that needed water, because it is so hot and people are really, really at risk for heat stroke. And the police have taken it everything down 2 days in a row. The first day they took the pop up, a bunch of coolers, tables. The second night, and we had been leaving it out during the heat wave, so it wasn't a problem. It wasn't causing a problem at all. And they just decided they didn't want people to have access to water and be hydrated and be safe and be, uh, you know, cared for, I guess. So they've really made a calculated and very intentional message and stance against, unhoused people having access to clean water. And I
Yeah.
don't really know the exact reasoning. I mean, I it's probably like all their other laws and orders and anti-homeless laws and ordinances. They just want to make it difficult. They think if they're cruel and inhumane enough that homelessness will just disappear, but that's not the case. It doesn't work like that. So here we are.
Yeah. I mean, I have my thoughts on uh, why or their methods of why it is they're doing the things that they're doing. They do have some historical context, but we'll get to that a little later. But for right now, recently what was passed back way back in May 1st, I believe the no camping ordinance was passed. Okay, how disrespectful is it to call survival on the streets camping? It's not recreational.
It's not camping. It's literally survival that was ordered. People were ordered to shelter in place during COVID, and and so that's what happened. They sheltered in place and
Hmm.
they used tents and lived in tents because that's the only shelter that they could get. And I think it was actually April 1st, and I remember because it was like April
Oh,
Fool, like
yes.
haha.
Hmm.
And they
Yep.
passed a camping ordinance making it illegal to use a tent anywhere in the city of Medford, anywhere. You can get 30 days in jail and a $500 fine. Um, so now tents are outlawed here. Heroin and drugs are tickets. That is small amounts of drugs are now decriminalized. So it's actually a harsher punishment and more criminal to use a tent than a lot of small quantities of drugs. Makes no sense. It makes no sense.
You just, I am reminiscing on the conservatives that were like, Black lives matter. No, they don't. All lives matter. But then they want to kill off homeless people. That wasn't very live, love, laugh of you, Karen. I don't know about that. Oh
Really,
man.
really what it is, let's be honest. When they say all lives matter, it is not all lives matter. What they're
Yep.
saying is we just want to say the opposite of Black Lives Matter because we're mad
Yep.
and we're racist, and the only thing we can say is all lives matter. But when it comes to all lives, they're nowhere to be found,
Hmm.
you know.
But then again,
So
Oregon has a history of hating anything brown. I mean, Oregon historically was supposed to be a white ethno state. So, what that looks like is joining the Union in 1852, or was it 1853? That Oregon, because it's on the flag of the state of Oregon. So in the 1850s they joined the Union. However, they made all of these black exclusionary laws but they call themselves abolishing slavery. Like, we'll abolish slavery, but it's only because we don't want black people to live here. And it wasn't even until 2002 that they took the racial slurs out of their state constitution. I'm like, I y'all should be the most quiet when it comes to we swear we're not racist.
Well, yeah, and we have we're there's so many white people here too. I mean, if you go back, I mean, there's a whole, I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's a whole documentary and information. It was like after Portlandia came out, it was
Mm,
like this Whitelandia, and it was like
mm,
exposing how Oregon was really built on white supremacy, and like a haven, quote unquote, for white supremacists, basically. And
mm-hmm.
like you said, it was like you said, it was like it was supposed to be this white weird utopia.
Yeah.
And
I just, I
all the
am
names you
recalling,
have, I want like a running list. I need a running list of like of all the names you come up with, because every time you say a new one, I'm like, where's my pen? Because I need to remember it, because they're very creative
yes, yes.
and they're very accurate and it's funny, and like people really get upset and mad.
It's
But it's
courtesy of Black Twitter. I would like to personally thank Black Twitter for deeming white supremacists mayo monkeys and bleach demons. Thank you so much. It has been
what was the yeast one? There was a
the
yeast.
yeast yetis. The yeast yetis have struck again.
They really have. They really are like, I mean, you're not looking for Bigfoot here.
No,
You're searching for the yeast yetis.
the yeast yetis have struck, and they've come with unseasoned food. They have, and a lot of cultural appropriation. I'm not going to lie. If I see a white person with locks, I automatically don't think that they have my best interests at heart. I'm just going to put that out there. They're going to tell me something
Yeah.
weird that, um, but the Vikings had dreads too. And then I got to tag Sasquatch on because his whole thing is Norse paganism. And then he's going to come in with the facts and be like, okay, listen here, Caucasity. We're not going to do that. We don't,
I hear him. I hear him.
I, I cannot live without his commentary. I live for it. So
I do too. It's good.
that's how I know he's an ally because he doesn't want the Yeast Yetis to cultural appropriate his culture anymore because there's a lot of Brodenists out there that, oh Lord, it's a whole thing. Um, so the next item on our list of things to talk about would be the shame in our shelters within Medford, Oregon. So tell me, what is going on with the discrimination within the homeless shelters here?
So, okay. So we don't have very many options here for people. And the ones we do have are at capacity with long wait lists, and they are high barrier, even though they claim to be low barrier. They're really not. Um, I think they need to be low barrier on paper for funding. It's not cool anymore. Nobody wants to fund anything that is exclusive or high barrier. So on paper, they try to be high barrier. In practice, or I'm sorry, low barrier. In practice, they're very high barrier. Um, Most of them are faith based with a strong Christian faith based strings attached. They want you to go
Mm,
to their church, they want you to conform. And a lot of people that are struggling have been hurt by their religious upbringing, they have trauma. And so, for somebody that is supposed to be offering the most basic of human rights services, shelter, or something like that, for you to interweave and interject your religious agenda on someone is really unacceptable. Um, and it's just a lot of old ideologies like you need to earn X, Y, and Z, and it's very punitive. It's revolves around like punishment, or you need to earn, you know, whatever it is that they're offering, snacks, food, heat, whatever. That for me is very, very basic. And they're being paid. They're getting funded for these things. So no one needs to earn anything because your money was free. Like,
Mm,
you need to be giving everything, like, and um Rogue Retreat is a very dominating system here.
mm,
And I will say, before I kind of cuts, say what I don't like about someone, is the mission and Rogue Retreat do help people. They do. If you're a certain type of person,
right.
a very narrow sort of person, they want to help, and they do help. It's not like they don't help anyone. That system works for some people, but it really excludes a lot of people. Um, and there's that exclusion is means that there's gaps, and that we need different services and different types of structures and approaches for housing and shelter that are different models than those that we already have, because a lot of people are being left out.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely. Um, I'll never forget, like, damn near 5 years ago, I was newly homeless and I tried to get into Rogue Retreat. I didn't have a criminal record whatsoever. And I didn't have a drug history. I didn't have any of these things. I was literally a college student. And next thing I know, I'm homeless. And I'm like, listen, I'm just trying to get back into school any way that I possibly can. But because of some FAFSA restrictions, I was unable to at the time. And, I go to Rogue Retreat back when they were that little building on Elm Street, that tiny, like it's easily missed, I've noticed. And I don't know where they moved to, but they used to be over there. So I walk in there and, I'm filling out the information and then I notice that there is a pastor there. And he's a black man. I don't remember what his name was, but he was the pastor of this church called Set Free, which is like further down the road. Um,
Yeah, they do the showers and things. I think they have
right.
showers for people.
And my issue is that this man knew who my grandfather was. So I'm like trying to fill out the information. I'm minding my business. He strikes a conversation with me. And next thing I know, I'm getting a weird phone call from my grandfather. It's like, so let me get this straight. You saw me there. I'm assuming that illegally you called one of my family members that you knew of, and because you saw me
Yeah.
there, I don't
I mean,
know.
that's a breach of privacy for sure.
That is such a breach of privacy.
Yeah.
And I understand that Rogue Retreat does serve um, members within the community that struggle with addiction. I don't really know what the percentage is of that, but it's like that doesn't automatically mean that I'm one of them. So,
Right.
like, that was none of your business, but, here we are. And, one of the things that, we're going to talk about a little later is that a lot of the times, one of the reasons that, or at least it's one of the top four reasons that people wind up homeless is because of a domestic violence situation. So, what if you just called my abuser and said, look, she's over here? Like, that is such a, like, that's not cool, man. That's not cool.
I know. And there's something about this entitlement. Like we talk about charity versus solidarity. Like charity is kind of this savioristic approach that you feel entitled to that person's information, to share their information, to infringe on their privacy, to know their income status, their substance use status, things that in different situations would be so inappropriate.
Hmm.
And people get this idea that they are entitled to that information if they are helping someone. Um, and that's just not the case. Like, one thing we really stress at the park, or anybody that we're working with doing outreach, is really respecting someone's choice, their choices. It's not us for us to judge like good, bad, or indifferent. Their privacy and their bodily autonomy. Like,
Mm.
just because you're helping someone or feeding someone or housing someone, they don't owe you anything. They don't
Oh,
owe you
yes.
anything.
Preach.
And so some of these shelters in these places, like, they just think that your information is theirs to exploit. And that's just not the case. And that's the big difference. I think that charity work is very it can exploit people, and it can kind of pay into this nonprofit system that can do more damage than harms or good sometimes. And this
Mm.
solidarity, these thoughts of solidarity, standing with people and beside them and not in front of them, we're doing this together, we're moving forward together, we're helping each other in a mutual way, is kind of a kind of, well, it's not new at all. That's not new, but I think it's new for this area, and people don't quite understand it, and they're stuck in kind of these old charity type structures that just don't it's not what's the word, it's not like respectful, or
Mm.
I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, I've had experience with that level of entitlement. And, if you say something to them that they don't like, they'll hit you with the, if it wasn't for me, you'd still be homeless. Like, are you serious?
Yeah,
So you're not doing this because it's the right thing to do. You're doing this to feed your own ego, and that's a problem. So
right.
I was living in a group home, and it's called the Magdalene Home, and this is yet another uh, Christian-based organization. And the only reason I got in was because I was pregnant. So had I not been pregnant, I'd have still been living on the streets. So, it did the opposite of what it was supposed to do in terms of availability of shelters and how I could get in and not be homeless anymore. Is that in order for me to no longer be homeless, I had to keep my baby. That's forced birth, guys. But, I love my son and everything. It's just that the situation in which I found myself, that's not a reason you should be pregnant. That's like the
Right.
most it's
Yeah.
insane.
Like, that's
So
a yeah, that shouldn't even be, no one should be forced to choose, like, do I want shelter or
yeah, so if I at the time I found myself in a situation where if I wanted shelter, I had to keep my baby, and that's what I did. So, um I'm at this place, and they're they're definitely conservative, and I've had to deal with a lot of white savior complex, and it's weird. But I'll never forget. This ties into what the livability team did recently with they'll pose in photos with
Mhm.
previously housed individuals, and they help maybe one or two people do a photo op with them, even though there's like a 500 wait list at the Kelly shelter, and
I
say,
just
look, we're doing something.
threw up in my mouth a little.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Like like So um so here's what the Magdalene home did. So in order to get a grant from McLaughlin Middle School, which is a school that I went to, where I have had so many racist experiences from, and then for past teachers that have met me as like a preteen, and now for them to see me in my adulthood in a group home pregnant, and just I felt like I was on display for these people to come in and go, look, you don't want to wind up like these people. Like it's so degrading.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am at the lowest point of my life, and and then here you come with more white savior complex BS, and all this for some grant money. It's like shit. For all of this, I would be fine with sleeping under a bridge if I knew that the cops wouldn't come and arrest me for existing.
Right. And it's you don't feel supported. You're not supported in the way that's gonna help long term. I don't know. I just yeah, like you said, it's for display. Like I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, but they took it even a step further because before I was homeless, again, I was a college student. So I was working on trying to get into like multiple universities. Like, you know how it is. You don't know what university you're going to wind up at. So you um, put applications out there, and then you hope for the best and stuff. And that's what I was in the process of doing until I became homeless and I couldn't do it anymore because I lost the funding for it because I was under the age of 24. And my mom, who was, well, when she was alive, she was an alcoholic, and she was irresponsible and didn't fill out the FAFSA information, so that left me with no other choice but to leave school. um, According to the white saviors, I am a well-spoken black person. So what they did was um, they put me in one of their promotional videos.
Oh.
So, um, so I'm like literally
Uncom
being,
I'm sure uncompensated.
oh, definitely uncompensated. Like they were compensating me by allowing me to live there.
With
So
money that they already got funding for. So,
exactly. And so I am staying there, and they're like, okay, so we're going to bring a camera crew in, and you're going to talk about your experience, or something like that. And of course, they're going to edit out things that they don't like. And so I was literally used as a damn prop, and especially for diversity because I'm black, in order to get these people more funding. And
that's
yeah, this house, this Magdalene house, it only houses 5 girls at a time. So it's not like they are tackling the issue of homelessness as a whole. They only serve one specific niche. And I can tell
yeah.
you that the biggest thing that me and the other 4 girls had in common is that we had unsafe households. So instead of fixing that issue,
Right.
you set us up with this white savior complex bullshit. And, some girls had the
And
opportunity to leave the home and go back to that situation because they were tired of dealing with the white savior complex, but I didn't have that option.
right. And a lot of people don't. They have to they don't. They don't have any other options And these places bank on that. They
Hmm.
they bank on that people don't have any other options and have to go through their program and do it their way and how they want. And um most people don't speak out because they don't want to lose the roof over their head. So,
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, then they guilt trip you with the people that are working here don't even get paid a lot. The people are getting paid, period.
well, whose fault is that?
Like whose fault
Also,
is that?
right. If they're paying low wages, I mean, that's your fault. Pay them more.
Like pay them more first of all, and then like I did not do this to them. Like they really make it seem like um you just kind of chose to be in the situation that you're in. Like, well, you chose to get pregnant. I can't really speak for the teen moms because I was the only one that was in my 20s, by the way. I can't speak for the teen moms that should have just focused on school or whatever. But as for me, who was a whole college student before this, I did not, I could have gotten the abortion, but I would then be sleeping under a bridge. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's messed up.
it is. It really is. And so, that's part of the reason why I got into this work in the first place is because nobody should have to choose between homelessness or parenthood.
Oh God. Seriously, that's so messed up. When you break it down like that, that is like unbelievable.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't know how else to tell you this, but when I when I got into a shelter because I had a baby, I then applied for I was then able to apply for FAFSA because I had a dependent. And
Oh, right. Then you don't have to if you're not 24, that's right. If you're married or have a dependent, then the age limit of 24. I remember that.
yeah, like that's still in effect. We need to change that on a federal level. But
Yeah.
anyway,
That's messed up because
it
I
is.
moved out when I was like 16 and my parents didn't claim me on their taxes, but I was screwed out of any FAFSA money because they still had to put their income and were well like middle class income
Hmm.
earning. So I wasn't, yeah, that was weird.
Yep. So
I forgot
then,
about that.
yeah. And then after I applied for FAFSA, I applied for this other grant where it wasn't necessarily a grant. It was more like a study that this group was doing. So I applied there, and then luck of the draw, the the rule of thumb was if you won their lottery, then they will pay for your schooling if you're in a if you're in an allied health program, which I was because I went to school for medical coding. And
Oh,
yeah, so if you were in, this specific certification program, they would pay for your schooling, and the FAFSA money that was supposed to pay for your schooling goes to you. So I got the full $5,000 that came to
woo!
me. So I had a lot to gain if I stayed pregnant.
Wow.
It's like, okay, look, I'm not about to be somebody's baby mama until I'm securing the bag. Okay? So I am never giving birth again. I'm only going to do it just the one time. I got my
I did it
certification
one time.
just the one
I
time. That's all I need. We don't need to.
He's 17. He's gonna be a senior.
Oh my God. Having a kid in your 20s is the perfect age because by the time you are in your 40s, they're going to be doing their own thing. They're making their own
Yeah,
damn peanut butter and jelly. They're
yeah. It, yeah. It's so weird, but yeah, I was one. I knew the second I got pregnant. I was like, okay, this is. I'm not doing this again.
Not doing this again. Oh yeah.
Not doing this again.
I,
And
I
everyone's like, "Oh, you'll change your mind. You meet someone," and I'm like, "No, the hell I
no,
will."
I won't be doing that. I didn't count on a worldwide pandemic to happen after,
Oh,
like, because I was working at Blue Cross Blue Shield like before everything hit the fan. So I was actually doing really well financially until things went sour.
did you did you lose daycare? Is that what happened?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And then what do you do? I mean, you can't. I know. I don't know what people were doing. Honestly, I was just like, I don't even know what people are doing.
Yep, and that's why they really do say it takes a village to raise a child because whew, dear Lord, and I did not have a secure village.
Right.
Okay. All right. Um but we manage, but these are a lot of the reasons of how easy it is to be chronically homeless.
I
Is
know.
yeah.
It's one thing. Like, I can't believe people are still coming at us after COVID, after the wildfires. People are still totally reeling, and we're going into another fire season. I don't know how people haven't gained compassion and empathy after this year and a half, and that they're still coming with these stupid ass excuses and old ideologies that are from the dinosaur age.
Well, the way that they think is, the COVID scare is over. Jobs are opening back up. Everybody is hiring. There's no excuse. I'm like, well, is everybody paying me a living goddamn wage? Because I can assure
Right.
you that the level of money that I was getting paid, I am not going to find if I go back out and, job hunt or whatever. Because I was
Right.
making well above minimum wage.
Right.
That makes no sense.
I know.
So, with that being said, that's how chronic homelessness works. And now we're going to get into some historical insight.
Ooh. Yeah, I actually had never even heard of this. I'm glad we're moving on to your next point
Yep,
because I
okay.
googled it.
Historical history in hindsight. We're in that segment. So, the 1866 Vagrancy Act. When I looked this up, I was like, this literally sounds like the heinous bullshit that Medford, Oregon is playing on the houseless community right now.
I
And
know. I googled it and I'm like, ooh, this
yeah, so
sounds like the modern.
yeah,
Anyways, go on.
so
It was. This is.
if you look homeless, if you fit a description as our fascists in blue like to say, then you're going to be forced into um, hard labor or what have you for 3 months or so. I believe is what the Vagrancy Act depicted. But Medford, Oregon did something a little bit differently and brought it into the modern day. So now you have the real threat of either stay homeless and risk being imprisoned
Right.
because you were living on the streets, or pray to get into one of these shelters where they will lease you out to the city to clean up previously destroyed encampments and they pay you with gift cards. What?
Yeah. So, Rogue Retreat. I mean, they run the program. It's called
Mm,
Clean Sweep program. But what they do is they go around, pick people up in this van. They tow this trailer with all this like rakes and whatever, this equipment, and they literally have people pick up trash, which there's nothing wrong with that, but the compensation is so demeaning and inhumane and just disrespectful.
Mhm.
It's like, I don't know what the value is, but it's a very low dollar gift card. They don't even pay you a decent living wage. They don't, um, give you cash. They give you a gift card because heaven forbid you use that cash on something they don't approve of. So it's a
Mhm.
gift card. And oftentimes what they do is they will sweep homeless encampments. So the cops will come in, sweep, it's awful, bulldoze everything, and they'll bring these people in that are also unhoused to clean up the mess. It's like the sickest, twisted program I have ever heard of. And they're
Oh
not even
yeah.
compensated fairly. It's
Mhm.
not like, they're getting $50 or whatever for an hour. I think they're getting, I don't know. I've heard different amounts on a on a gift card, like $15 or something. I'm not sure, but um it just exploits people. And
Absolutely.
people are desperate, so they do it, and it's kind of weird.
Oh yeah.
And I was also going to say, let's see, what else did I write down? Oh, for this forced idea of somebody that's unhoused or seeking aid, like I was saying, if you want to apply for food stamps or whatever it is, there's this entitlement into someone's privacy. You have to disclose your income, where you work, all this personal
Mhm.
information, your
Yep.
dependents, and not only do you have to go through that once, it's very violating and it's very inappropriate, but you have to keep doing it in order to keep, these benefits. And
Yep.
I have a family member, and people are like, "Oh, well, you can't just give it away without, checking or processing or making sure someone's not lying." Well, the thing is the cost to process and make sure people aren't lying is so much more expensive than just freaking giving people the whatever service it is. Like my aunt,
Mhm.
she's elderly, she's retired. She didn't pay into retirement because she was a matriarch of this big, huge family and had all these kids from a religious background. And she's not married to her husband anymore. So basically, whatever, she's screwed. But she has this little part-time job that pays her like just over minimum wage, and she only works like 12 hours a week. She's old. Like,
Mm.
she shouldn't be working at all. But they literally give her $16 in food stamps. And I'm like, the time it takes for them to have her apply and process her application and then award her $16,
Mm.
like, to pay a government employee to do that, they might as well just give her the full food stamp allowance. She's an old lady, and like, who cares? Like, why are you doing that? It's just degrading.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
literally she gets $16 a month in food stamps. That's a joke.
It is. It absolutely is. And that's not even just one person. That is a frequent occurrence.
Yeah.
It's messed up.
And she has to do all this stuff, like she has to, report her bills and her bank statements and like what she makes, and she's totally way below poverty level. I mean, and
Mhm.
she's elderly, and I'm just like, the money that we pay somebody to process this paperwork, we could just give you the money and be done with it, but that's not how it
Mm.
works.
Exactly.
So,
Yep.
anyways,
And that's yet another person that is a paycheck, a medical bill away from
oh,
homelessness.
totally. And I worry about her because her health is not well. Pretty soon she's gonna be too old to actually work the part-time job.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I worry. So
Oh yeah. Mhm. Okay. So the next thing of what I
I
would
think,
like to talk about is Oregon's prisons.
Do you see this? My eyes rolling. You see them
Oh my
rolling in
god.
the back of my head?
It's like it's so bad. Um Even though Oregon has voted blue for this past presidential election, that means absolutely nothing. Um, they are just fascism, but in rainbow. Um,
Yeah.
some Black Lives Matter
Both
sticker on
parties are
it.
shit. Both parties are terrible. They're
Like
shit. They're
it's
performative pieces of crap that want to uphold the
yes,
elitist system. So,
exactly. And in previous TikToks, I have explained that this is a color cast system because of race being used as a tool of social hierarchy. And people just do not believe me. And the historical significance of that can be explained with um, this book that I read called How the Irish Became White. And it explains so much. If you are an immigrant coming in from America, or um, before America switched completely to chattel slavery as its form of income, they also used indentured servitude. But see, that had a time limit. And that's one of the many
right.
differences between chattel slavery and indentured servitude, is that they still had some human dignity, definitely a hell of a
They
lot more than chattel
had,
slaves.
and they also they had different laws. Like if you were an Irish indentured servant, you still had laws that treated you because I googled it after our book thing this morning.
Hmm.
I googled it and they still had laws for and I'm not saying that that situation they didn't suffer. There was
Right.
suffering there, but
Hmm.
it was very different dynamic and there were still laws upholding them and viewing them as human beings, which
Hmm.
black people did not have. They did not have laws protecting them. Their laws treated black people as livestock, literally.
Exactly.
Like if you something happened and a black person was killed, that was viewed as your property, your livestock property was stolen, not a homicide. And
Right.
that is crazy.
Hmm.
That's not the
Exactly.
same. Not even close.
Exactly. Not even close. So, with that being said, um, way back when, in the 1800s, the Irish Americans that were established here were like, you know what? We don't want chattel slavery to end, because then we'll have to compete with black people for jobs. And so that ties into wage slavery instead. So instead of um viewing this as an opportunity for liberation for everyone, it's more like, fuck you, I'm all about me and
Yeah.
what little I can get out of the deal. Instead of, how about everyone get paid a thriving wage? Because you know what?
Right.
I'm done with the idea of livable. I want thriving. Okay.
Right.
So
Precisely.
yeah. So with that being said, um, that's why prisons make so much money. And I'm aware that Oregon prisons, there are no private prisons that are established in Oregon. There are, however, public ones that are established in Oregon. And I have here from streetroots.org. It even
That is,
says,
yeah, that's um, uh, uh, run by unhoused people. It's a newspaper that is run by unhoused people.
Yep. And they definitely did their homework because who would know except for they are an exploited class of people in this caste system. And they wrote that they visited the Oregon State Penitentiary in Salem. It's a maximum security prison housing 2,000 of the 14,700 inmates living in Oregon state run correctional institutions. It houses Oregon Corrections Enterprises' largest laundry and second largest contact center. In an expansive carpeted room that stretched from one end of the building to the other, the contact center's rows of identical cubicles sat beneath fluorescent light and exposed air ducts. At each desk sat an inmate wearing a navy blue t-shirt, jeans, and a headset, watching a computer monitor, reciting his personalized sales pitch. Aside from the casual dress code and see-through walls of the cubicles, it was like any other office. So what this article talks about is how it is that these companies that profit off of prison labor, how they exploit these prisoners. And the
So was
reasoning,
it so are they explaining like the prisoners are like a call center, or are they
yeah,
doing laundry, or are they
all of
doing
those
all of the
things.
above?
All of the
Oh,
above.
okay. Oh,
All
wow.
of the above. Oregon Corrections Enterprises is a semi independent state agency that was created to help the state's prisons come into compliance with the requirement that all able bodied inmates be put to work. It operates a network of
Wow.
28 businesses inside 11 of Oregon's 14 state prisons.
Wow.
So
That's I want to read that. That's crazy.
I will send you the link and I will continue talking about this article in more TikToks because this does need to be talked about more because, the more that homeless people are criminalized, they're going to go from local jails straight to state penitentiaries. Like, that's
Right.
how the system works.
Does it
And
say what their hourly wage or their compensation is? Isn't it something like ridiculous?
it's
Am I
bad.
gonna lose it? Like $1 or $2? I
essentially, essentially. And I talk about this a little bit more in one of the blog posts that I made on soequity.org's website. I believe it's located in either the blog post called Wage Slavery, where I talk about Irish Americans and the prison industrial complex system, or the blog post that I wrote about Joe Biden. Uh yeah, I am drawing a blank on which blog post I put this information in, but it's there. And here's what it says. It says inmates earn about 150 to $200 a month.
How many hours a week are they working?
They're working
What?
full time. They are working full time. But see, their
So how
reason,
much is
so
how
40
much is
hour
that an
work
hour?
weeks. So that's like $1.75 an hour, give or take. Because
Wow.
OCE is the highest paying of prison labor. That much I do know from one of the blog posts that I wrote. And their reason for paying the inmates so low is because um, they have a place to sleep and the state is providing them food. So therefore, they don't need to pay them very much. But see, that's a problem because if you're not paying these people a livable wage, then they're not going to have very much when they get out and re enter
Also,
into society.
also, also that is incentive to keep a full prisoner system because these companies will then have access to basically free labor,
Yes,
forced labor.
yes,
So it would not make sense or be an incentive for us to get prisoners out and reformed and into society, because I mean, what will all that free labor, these companies that are making so much money, need that?
Exactly, which is why I never understood why libertarians, like American libertarians, exist, because you're all for personal freedoms except for your commitment to capitalism, because capitalism is an inherently predatory and oppressive system.
Because they
So,
think everything should be privatized, right?
yeah, essentially, I'm like,
Yeah,
listen,
I don't get. I tried to get in on, like, get hip to that, and I was like, this isn't working out for me.
this isn't working out for me. Like, no.
Like the
Uh,
whole privatized thing, that's it's still a bell curve. People are gonna flourish at the expense of other people
mhm,
because it's
exactly.
capitalistic in nature. So
Exactly, exactly, which is why one of the many reasons why, of course, you know as well as I know that So Equity takes a very strong anti-capitalist stance, because it is not equitable to oppress people
right.
no matter what color they are.
And it's the root of everything that's fucked up. It
Yes,
is it is
exactly.
the root, because once there's profit and people, yeah. Um uh One thing I did Google, or I wrote down, because I knew you were gonna segue into the Oregon prisons, is specifically because, like I said before, I have a school age child,
Mhm.
and the incarceral system is free labor, but the school to prison pipeline
Mhm.
starts at a very, very young age and
Mm.
starts funneling Black, brown, poor people into this forced labor system at a super young age. And that's something that's kind of new to me, but it makes sense because it keeps the machine going. And there's
Absolutely.
different ways they do that. And I was looking up, the juvenile criminal justice system,
Mhm.
um, DHS, how they play a
Ho
part
ho.
in it.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, and MPD, not unlike a lot of other school districts, have campus resource monitor officers, and one of the easiest way to target kids is the cops have full unbridled access to your personal information when you register your child into a public school system, and they
Mhm.
have um, cops on campus. These cops in Medford, and I think in across the state, have access to your information, your child's information, including attendance, their grades, their counseling, anything that's documented, um, your immigration status,
Oh my
your
God.
everything that you put down, your employer, your address, every single thing, these cops have access to without, at least in Medford, um, they don't have to have permission. They don't have to log it. There's no accountability. So they can literally look up from a kindergartner to a 12th grader, anywhere in the public school system in
Mm.
Medford. MPD has access to that information. They don't have to ask the principal. There's nothing. And so it's so easy to target kids and to
Oh
get
yeah.
them started at an early age into this school to prison pipeline, and then they just end up in a cycle of incarceration, which is, forced labor. So
Absolutely. And I want to know, and I know there's not going to be a way to look this up because they would not be so forthcoming with that kind of information, but I want to know how many Oregon police officers are involved with right wing extremist militia groups because we already know that
Oh,
Medford Police Chief Scott Clausen is a Trump supporter.
I'm sure that it's overwhelming, especially in the rural police departments. Like it's over. I mean, you can tell they don't hide it. They don't
Nope.
even hide it. They don't. They're not afraid. They are so used to having the audacity, as you would say, the caucasity, as you would say,
Yes, the caucasity.
that they don't even hide it. They are so, yeah. Scott Clausen, our chief of police here in Medford, he's a total Trump supporter, conservative, right winger, Ben Shapiro loving.
Ah,
Ugh.
gross.
I know. I know.
So the fact
I just looked up to see how many people are watching us. None.
I have two so far, but the point is that this is going to be saved um on my TikTok page anyway. So I'm going to do
Oh, that's cool. You can save it.
well, it's going to automatically be saved anyway. You just got to go look at where it's
That's
saved
cool.
at. So you got to go to the creator tools and some other stuff. I'll tell you
Yeah,
about it
I'll just
later.
follow your. Yeah.
Yep. But what I do want to point out is circling back to the Oregon's prison system is that they really justify these inmates working for these companies, saying that, oh, they're going to learn these skills so that they can enter back into society productively. But the issue is, um, what are background checks for when you apply for a job? What are they for?
Right.
If
To
that
see if
was the
you've ever
case,
gone to jail or been arrested or.
these are the pressing questions that employers ask you, and I'll say it again. I'm not a fan of the biological father of my child, but I will say that before he went to prison, he worked for a moving company and he got the job, through word of mouth, a friend of a friend who had a
Yeah.
dad that worked for this moving company. And, he was getting paid above minimum wage. And then after 2 weeks, which is around about enough time for an exclusive background check to come back to the employer, they're like, yeah, so you can't work for us anymore. It's not me. I personally would love to hire you one, but it's corporate that wants you gone. And yeah, like that's how they do. And so, what that does to a person that has been chronically homeless for a very long time, what that does to their psyche, they're going to go um, abuse drugs if they previously stopped because they got their hopes up, because they finally got employed in something that they're good at and could provide for their families. And then for you to throw it in their faces, they're going to spiral and they're going to
Yeah.
binge.
Or your mental health will go. Your mental health will take a dive.
Yeah.
Your um. We want to believe that our judicial system takes a crime, assigns it a punishment, and then that's over with. But really, it's never over with when there's all this background check and like you're still paying for your crime well
Hmm.
after you've already done jail. And that's just once whatever you were doing before to make money, now you really can't get a job or a place to live. So you're really only left with things that are gonna you're gonna participate possibly in more crime. It's a cycle, and you'll end up back in prison. And I told you this before. I was like, huh, That's weird. It's almost as if they want you to go back to prison
Exactly. It plays
for this
into,
dollar an hour labor that
yeah.
these companies want to exploit people and rely people. And it's like literally written into their business models. You
Hmm.
know, we can produce this product, we can produce, this is our overhead because we're going to count on the prisons to provide us with extremely cheap labor.
Yep, exactly. And now I want to segue into um, why um, this level of exploited labor is still in place within America. We're going to go into the topic of conversation called fascism. And and I gotta say, there were definitely quite a few people, conservatives, in the comment section of my TikToks going, "What? That's not fascism, blah, 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 blah." And I'm like, yeah, you may think that, but that's only because there are certain parts of fascism that were not taught in schools here in America, because then you'd come to realize that the current systems that are in place are inherently exploitive. So
And
this was given,
racist and
oh, yeah,
classist.
yes, all of those things. And the um the information that I'm about to read is from a book called The German Underworld: Deviants and Outcasts in German History, and it was previously
Ooh.
published in 1988. And I gotta say, I gotta thank one of our most trusted allies, Stephen Esick. He was the one that sent me
Ooh.
this. Yep. I swear, I don't know where he gets this information from, but I'm glad he gave this to me.
He
So,
he that guy is so freaking smart. I swear. When I need something, I'm like, he's my go-to.
exactly. So, here's what we're working with. So it says right here, and also for anyone that's about to watch this recording later, um, you can find this book on Amazon, but I would greatly appreciate it if instead of going to Amazon, you find some thrift store to get this book from, because Jeff Bezos does not need any more money. Anyway, so according to officials of the vagrancy relief in Germany, some 200,000 to a half a million people, mostly men, were living on the streets by the beginning of the 1930s. So here's
In
how,
German.
yeah, so here's how they weaponized homelessness, because this is around the time of the Great Depression. So I cannot think of a better comparison than this right here. So a good many of the homeless must have found their way into the arms of the brown shirts, attracted by the promise of food, shelter, uniforms, and plenty of action. So these already exploited peoples joined the Nazi party because they were poor, not even
Just
because
because
they
they need
believed.
their basic needs met. They
Exactly.
just, oh wow.
Yeah. But see, that's not something that I learned in an Oregon high school. And I don't think
No.
any American high school student has ever learned this. But see, this is why
I haven't
critical
learned
race
any,
theory needs to be taught.
I haven't learned any. I grew up in Oregon and I went to public school in Oregon and I wasn't the best student and I didn't really finish. I got my GED, but I did not learn any accurate history. I
Hmm.
didn't learn any history on civil rights or racism that wasn't totally whitewashed or written by a white person or through the lens of a white person or making the white person the hero as the, in the situation. Nothing.
Hmm.
That's
Exactly.
we didn't learn it accurately.
Yep.
So I feel like it's my responsibility to try to relearn it as an adult.
Yeah. And what a lot of people don't understand is it's not just y'all, it's also black people learning, like everyone that are actually serious about this kind of work is educating themselves as well as educating each other, So I've honestly learned half the stuff that I do right now just because I was talking to other activists that are serious about anti racism. And so, that's why we all need to stick together because this is
I
a group effort. you know,
know.
so
Seriously.
um so the rest of what this portion of this book talks about, again, this was published in the 80s. So
Wow.
the fact that it's still not talked about in public schools is it's very telling.
Yeah.
So right here it says that it explains that the Nazi Party went from attracting uh, homeless people. It was a local paper published in a municipality near Hamburg. They published a photograph of beggars assembled in what the caption described as the first concentration camp for homeless people in 1933. So they put homeless people in internment camps too, which is insane. But you didn't learn that because instead what you learned was they put gay people in internment camps. They obviously
Right.
put Jewish people and black people and anybody that wasn't Aryan and but see
Right.
that's how fascism works, is that it is both racist and classist. And
Hmm.
what is America? Racist and classist. But see, you won't get a lot of people that will that will believe it because they're like, "What? That's not what I learned in school. I don't need to know this." But see, here's the kicker though. At the beginning of 1933, the Nazis published a novel called The Road to Hitler with a foreword by a man named Joseph Goebbels. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but his last name is spelled Goebbels. And he was a Nazi politician who wrote the foreword to this book. And the point of it was to win over homeless people in the movement. So this was propaganda to get homeless people to join their
Wow.
ranks. And that's what happened. And so that's it's very concerning.
Well, yeah, and like you said, it's kind of like what you were saying. I mean, when people don't have any other option, and that's the only option you're giving them, the basic necessities to survive and do what
Exactly.
we say and go along,
Hmm.
it's like
Yep.
people are going to choose that.
Hmm. But I do want to point this out though. We're not at the point of they're just going to put homeless people in Medford, Oregon, or in the Rogue Valley as a whole in internment camps. No, they're just going to let Mother Nature do it. And it's disgusting. And then what's what America has a tradition of doing is, because this is relating to their military, because that's who they were at the time. Germany's military attracting homeless people, people less fortunate to join their ranks. This is what America does. I was in the sixth grade when I met an Army recruiter. I was in sixth grade in
Oh
Baltimore
my
City,
god.
Maryland. Yeah, I am in
Sixth grade.
sixth grade. I am poor. I am going to school in the hood, and I meet a white military recruiter who's in full garb, and he's telling us that, oh, yeah, if you join the military, this is how much we'll pay for, your college. And, we're poor already. So we're like, wait a minute, we get to go to college if we fight for your wars? Like, that's how uh, imperialism and fascism work, is that you are exploiting poor people to join your military, and you're actively exploiting their people back at home base. And And I'm not going to lie, I have a few people within my family that are veterans. Like, for example, my Uncle Billy, he fought in the Korean War. My Uncle
Oh,
Billy. And, that was back when they had a mandatory draft. So it's not like he chose to do it.
right. He was forced.
He was forced to do it. So, it's insane, but that's what happened. And I'm looking at the military, I'm like, yeah, I don't that's not my thing. I just kind of want to go to college. Like, can I skip the military portion and just go to college? But see, libertarians, they're like, "Ugh, people just don't want to work for it." It's like, I pay enough taxes that I should be able to go to college at a reasonable price or for essentially free because my taxes pay for it.
Right. And the the price of inflation of tuition is insane. Like when my dad went to college, he always talks, he was like, he's this, ugh, I can't even get into it, but
Mm,
he went to college back when, you have a bachelor's degree and that is all you need and you're guaranteed a great
yep.
job for the rest of your life with benefits.
Hmm.
And it cost him nothing. He didn't have any
Nothing.
debt. And he wasn't necessarily rich or had money. It just he could work a job and kind of pay his tuition and then like
Exactly.
what whatever because it was so cheap. I mean, tuition is not it is so expensive right now and it does not reflect um the living wage. Like it's like risen like 600% or something. It's something crazy.
Hmm.
And so it's another way for people to one if you want to go to college, you have to join the military or else you're going to be drowning in debt or it's just another one of their carrots on the end of the stick type thing.
Yep.
And they don't have recruiters at affluent private schools, okay? They don't have recruiters sitting there at affluent white schools. They have them
Nope.
at schools where kids are living in poverty and they're at
Hmm.
risk and they
Yep.
have no options and they go and it's predatory. It's predatory.
It absolutely is. And then that's um what the military loving Republican conservative teenagers, that's what they don't understand is that these military recruiters are not just at your local GameStop. They're at the poor neighborhoods.
Right. And schools. They're at
And
your
schools.
school.
Yeah, and I worked for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and working there, that just signed, sealed, delivered my final stance on joining the military. I was like, yeah, so I already know what happens when you get out, and I don't want that to happen to me, you know? Because there are different kinds of veterans. There are those that did their time, got out, and don't want to be bothered. I like them. There are
Right.
those that are entitled as hell as soon as they get out, and their military, I guess, um, well, officially it's called a DD 214, what their paperwork is, but their entire military service is their personality. And
Yeah.
they give you the most trouble. They're annoying. Um, like, thank you for your service, but you really don't need to milk it, okay? And like, you still wound up in rehab. Like, assess why you're
Right. And
here.
it's a career choice. It's a career
Exactly.
choice. Like being a policeman is a career choice. Like being a doctor is a career choice. It's like um I don't know.
Like, was it really worth the drinking problem and the three failed marriages? I don't think it was. And the only reason why I can even speak on this is because my grandfather was a Marine. And it's like, he is not in a solid relationship now. And it's not that you need to be in a relationship to be happy, but the fact that you were abusive in your past marriage, that's a problem. And it's not uncommon if you're a Marine. And and the fact that that is a meme on Facebook or something, the fact that it is a meme to automatically want to get married to somebody before you get shipped off overseas. And I'm like, are you serious? These kids, these barely adults that aren't even old enough to drink yet, they're 18, 19 years old joining the military. They're already wanting to get married and, go fight in a
Don't, yeah.
war that they don't even understand. Like, I know what
That
it's
doesn't
like.
even
Yeah,
it doesn't even serve them,
it
or
doesn't.
it doesn't even benefit them. The wars are, when people are like, "Oh, it's for your freedom." No, it's
No, it
not.
isn't.
It's
Oil does not
for
equal freedom.
oil and wealth and for the elite to keep making money. That's all it's for.
That's all it's for. And you know what? It's not going to be worth the PTSD. And I was in high school at the time that I was working for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and these men, I'm like, America ought to be ashamed because y'all don't deserve this. I mean, some of y'all might have gotten on my nerves because y'all made the military y'all entire personality or whatever, but y'all don't like this is the most dehumanizing I've ever seen. And um like America really doesn't want to talk about homeless veterans. They don't want to talk about that because they end
Oh,
up
I
at the
know.
VA too. And I've seen them, and I've talked to um two Black veterans at the Department of Veterans Affairs in White City, Oregon. So one guy, he was telling me that he's at the VA because of the severe PTSD he had because he woke up choking out his wife and he ended up in there. And I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry." And then the next guy,
Yeah.
he's like, "Oh, uh I was homeless, so I joined the military." And I was like, but he saw nothing wrong with that because he was all like, yeah, you get some blowhard screaming at you in your face, but as long as you follow orders, and do your time, you're out. And I'm just like, you were exploited. You were exploited.
Also, it I think about like um some of the veterans that we serve, either lunch or harm reduction or whatever. We serve quite a few veterans, a lot of people that suffer from PTSD, and they can't be in a traditional shelter.
Mm.
They cannot be enclosed. They can't be near a lot of people. Their PTSD directly stemming from their military experience is why they are in house currently
Yep.
and can't move through a traditional um you know sh- like homing program.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want to ignore those issues. They want to be patriotic and support the military until it's somebody that's out there in a tent, which they just made illegal, and needs help.
Hmm.
So where's your patriotism? Why don't you come out and help them? you know
Oh, Melissa, don't you know the way that we practice patriotism here in America is if we make boom boom in the sky and make fireworks.
when it's super dry and we're in a drought and we've already suffered through a fight. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, I am still so annoyed about.
I can't believe. I'm just glad nothing burned.
I'm
I'm
just
glad
like,
nothing burned. I woke up in the morning and I was like, thank God we're okay. Because I really thought something was going to catch on fire.
yeah.
It terrified me.
But the air quality is really terrible because we have a fire. I don't even know where it is. I just know that there is one
So
because it's
there's
terrible out
two
here.
of them.
Two
There's
of them.
one. Yeah, I think there's one in Klamath and there's one blowing up from California. and the
Mm,
smoke is, I noticed it today, it was pretty bad. And I know the people that had to evacuate and that lost everything and that were our fire victims have got
mm.
to be going through it right now. I can't even imagine. I mean, the air quality just, it triggered me, and I didn't lose anything, you know. I had to evacuate, but I didn't lose anything. And
Okay.
I can't even imagine what people are going through.
Yeah.
And then to have fireworks in like full effect and not be banned was mind blowing, but you know, also not surprising.
The fact that discount fireworks really went to a city council meeting to say we should keep the fireworks. And I'm like, if you want it to be patriotic, I know a few unhoused veterans that could use some assistance since you want to be patriotic so damn much.
Right.
What's stopping you from lending
Did
a
you
hand
see
there?
the panoramic picture? It was like in Phoenix or Talent. It was literally the fireworks stand, and then next door was all the burned down mobile homes. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a side. It wasn't. At first, I thought it was a side by side, and they're like, no, that's one picture. That's just a panoramic picture. That's literally a fireworks stand next to all the like the. I was like, you've got to be kidding me right now. No,
Y'all should name that masterpiece of a photo cognitive dissonance.
it
That's
was
what that is.
unbelievable. I thought it was like photoshopped or a side by
No.
side, like someone was trying to make a point. No, that was just a regular. No,
You should just put
that's
that
a real
in the
picture.
we can't make this shit up file.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So now the final segment for the evening before we get on out of here is fallacies about homelessness.
Oh,
Get a
where do we
job.
begin?
That's the first one.
Everybody screams, "Get a job!" Everyone's like, "Get a job!" This is what people say. I work hard. Why can't they? I have a job. They need to get a job. And I'm like, some people really honestly are out there thinking that some homeless person, some unhoused person is somehow taking something away from them,
Mm-hmm.
somehow, in some way, and they need to go get a job.
Yep.
And it's like, many have jobs, first of all,
Yeah,
first and
exactly.
foremost.
Like, I need you to tell me how many jobs are available right now that I could get into where after two or three paychecks I can afford rent.
Or who is going to hire me when I don't have access to a shower,
Mm-hmm.
to a laundromat,
Yep.
to change my clothes, to have, I mean, like, really, I'm like, are you going to hire them at your business? Are you going to hire them at your work? You want to scream about them getting a job, but then you're going to complain about their appearance, you know, and
Yeah.
most
And then,
most most people struggling with housing insecurity and homelessness have jobs. That's a statistic. That is a fact.
yes,
And um but even if they didn't, see, I just hate that in general, because even if somebody doesn't have a job, who cares? They still deserve common decency. They still deserve basic human rights. And they're not taking anything away from you. People somehow draw this conclusion that, like, I'm working, I'm doing this, and that person's not doing anything, and they're somehow taking away from me, which is not the case. You know who's taking away from you? Corporations
the
not paying
rich.
tax.
Yep.
You not paying taxes. Your
Mm-hmm.
government, you know, taking your taxes, and
Exactly.
it's not the unhoused person on the corner. That is not the person that's taking away from you. Your anger is so ignorant and misdirected, and it makes me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to get mad at someone, you know, get mad at your boss.
There you
Why aren't you
go.
working? Someone was like, why are you giving free people or people free water? I work all day and I don't get free water. And someone was like, you should tell your employer you need free water.
There
And
you
I was like,
go.
there you go. Why isn't
Yeah.
your so?
Yeah. So there is this one book that I really hope people open their eyes and start reading. It's literally a book called Cast by
Oh,
Isabel Wilkerson. Huh?
I want to read that.
Oh, it is great. So there is a particular chapter that I know you'd be interested in. It's called Pillar Number 7, Terror as Enforcement, Cruelty as a Means of Control. And I'll read a passage. So it says, the only way to keep an entire group of sentient beings in an artificially fixed place beneath all others and beneath their own talents is with violence and terror, psychological and physical, to preempt resistance before it can be imagined. Evil asks little of the dominant caste other than to sit back and do nothing. All that it needs from bystanders is their silent complicity in the evil committed on their behalf, though a caste system will protect and perhaps even reward those who uh, deign or to join in the terror. Jews in Nazi controlled Europe, African Americans in the antebellum and Jim Crow South, and the Dalits in India were all at the mercy of people who had been fed a diet of contempt, and hate for them, and had incentive to try to prove their superiority by joining in or acquiescing to cruelties against their fellow humans. Above all, the people in the subordinate caste were to be reminded of the absolute power the dominant caste held over them. In both America and in Germany, people in the dominant caste whipped and hanged their hostages for random and capricious breaches of caste, punished them for the natural human responses to the injustice they were being subjected to. In America, the whip was the most common instrument of punishment. The historian Kenneth Stamp wrote, nearly every slaveholder used it, and few grown slaves escaped it entirely. So the literal dehumanizing and methods used by a caste
And
system.
to keep it going, what little is required of the bystander, all that they need to do is just not do anything.
Exactly. And to just let it happen, or if they see just a smidgen of propaganda, they'll just say, oh, look, see, they're not all bad. See, they helped that one person. So
Right.
therefore, the 500 plus wait list of people at the Kelly shelter, we're just going to ignore that. And that's how that works. And another uh, talking point that conservatives like to use in the comment section is all homeless people are druggies. Really? Um, According to the point in time count, which is, let me go back to the paperwork here. It was a report in 2019 where people in Jackson County went and gathered information by asking homeless people essentially about their situation. And here's what they
Yeah.
gathered is that the percentage of unsheltered folks with disabling conditions is 62%, where
Yeah.
one or more disabling conditions they have. And then the other 38% reported that they have none. And then the top four disabling conditions that made the cut were mental health, physical disability, chronic health conditions, and then chronic drug abuse. Chronic
Right.
drug abuse, of the 358 people interviewed, only 70 people out of 358 suffered from drug abuse.
And also, People want to demonize that. They want to stigmatize that, and they want to weaponize it as if it's not something that needs attention, just like a physical disability or a mental health problem. And a lot of times, especially for me in my case, like my mental health is
Mm,
directly related to my substance use disorder. So I self medicate when my mental health is not doing well. That's just a symptom. That's just a means for me to cope. And
exactly.
that's as a privileged person with a home, with a car, with a phone, with a
Mm,
computer. I cannot imagine what my default coping mechanisms would be if I had to live without all those things. Um and yeah, it's just another excuse for people to hate the poor and hate
mm-hmm.
the unhoused. Um I also noticed that on your kind of your little talking points was the fact people just want handouts, like a free handout. So you can Google housing first models. You can Google um, how providing some basic necessities for somebody actually perpetuates them being sustainable or making better choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to bring up, there was a experiment they did not very long ago. It's called the Stockton Basic Income Experiment. And in
Mm,
Stockton, California, they gave they chose 125 people at random that lived well below the median income. So they were in poverty.
mm-hmm.
They gave them an extra $500 a month, no strings attached. So they didn't have to drug test, they didn't have to, it can be spent on whatever they wanted. There was no like strings attached. It wasn't like they could just were free to do what they wanted. And they proved basically that when you give, I mean, the only way to get someone out of poverty is just to pay for
Mm-hmm.
them to get out of poverty. And it said most people, 99% was spent on essentials. So
Yep.
like gas, groceries, food, I'm not food, but utilities,
Mm,
and that only 1% spent their money on like alcohol, cigarettes, etc. And they increased their grocery bill, they increased their quality of food, um, and 12% people secured full-time employment because of that extra $500, because they could buy clothes for an interview, gas to get to
mm-hmm.
interviews, childcare that was preventing them to
Yes.
have that full-time job. And this was just at people's own, no one was directing them, no one was forcing them, no one was making them feel like they had to report the money. And what they found was paying people to get out of
Mm-hmm.
poverty perpetuates, like they could have that little cushion so when emergencies happen they could deal with it, instead of that setting them back so far. When you're
Exactly.
living day to day or paycheck to paycheck and you have no cushion, when one little minor thing happens, it provides it's a snowball effect.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was really interesting because people are so concerned. Well, what are they going to do with the money? Well, what if they're lying? Or what if they're taking advantage? And what they found is that's not typical. That's atypical. And that if we focused on just fucking paying people what they need to survive, it perpetuates a positive outcome. And we really don't need to be so bogged down with this, the idea of people living on the government and
Mm,
taking your taxes. And no, that's actually a very, it's not that big of a concern.
yeah.
And that's not even that much money. $500. I
Exactly.
mean,
Oh my
and
God.
it made such a big difference in people's lives. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it made their quality of living go up. An increase of 12% full-time employment? That's
Mm.
crazy. Just because they had a little bit of extra money for childcare, gas, whatever they needed. I mean, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about the no strings attached because
Same.
people need people need to do what they need to do. They need to live
Mm-hmm.
their life, and we need to quit this like mentality of people taking advantage and trying to live off welfare. It's like welfare doesn't afford you to live.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, no.
You can't take advantage of welfare because it's not enough to do anything.
Yep. I remember I was working 2 days a week and I was getting paid $14 an hour. $14 an hour sounds eh, kind of good, but at the same time, I'm only working 2 days a week. So I'm not paying a lot, or at least I'm not getting paid a lot in order to afford very much. And so, I'm not living high on the hog or anything like that. So the second that I started working at that job, um, I was no longer getting TANF. They cut me off completely, just because I was working that little 2 days a week. So no one's getting rich
Right.
anywhere.
No. Yeah, I think it's just a misconception and people don't understand how it works and it's it's ridiculous.
hmm But I think that we have
We
covered a lot
covered
of
our
topics.
topics.
Yep, we got through it, and according to RV Pepper Shakers, I did see their comment. It says that it doesn't make it publicly available on TikTok. Our little live session that we did once we exit out of here, so we would have to upload it somewhere else. I will try to figure out how exactly to get the word out about what it is that we just
Cool.
talked about, but we did good. We did great.
I had fun.
Yeah.
I had fun and this prompted me to like do my own little research and I learn a lot, so I'm
Mhm.
glad. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here. And for
Anytime.
anybody that will eventually watch this on whatever platform that I put this on, I just want to say thank y'all for watching. We're going to go ahead and sign off. And I think that the second time that I will go live, I will most likely go live with RV Pepper Shakers to talk about the salt shakers, the bleeding heart Christians that believe in forced birth. I feel like that will be the most hilarious live stream ever, and I can't wait. As
I will
someone
I
that
will
has
tune
to,
in.
yep, as someone that has had to go through forced birth, let me tell you. All right. Good night.
All right, thanks Dominique. I'll talk to you soon.
All righty. Bye bye.
Bye.